In this video, I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial on how to cut this monostrap asymmetric gown with gathers. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button. So let's start. So for this pattern, the first thing you need to know is the full length of your dress. So for this particular dress, I'll be taking the full length of my dress to be 50 inches. So now you're going to subtract the upper part from the lower part. Now for the upper part, I'll be needing my shoulder to hip line of this dress, or you can add extra half or 1 inch to your hip line. So let's start by marking out our measurements. I'll mark my shoulder to bust line, shoulder to under bust line, which is 12, shoulder to waistline, which is 17 inches, and from there I'll add extra 7 inches to this pattern. Now I'll go ahead and mark all this back, and I'm going to draw out a straight line on this pattern paper. That is, I'm going to place my ruler and I'll connect all these lines that I have marked out. So after I'm done marking this, I'll go ahead to label as bust, under bust, waist and hip. I'll mark my shoulder divided by 2. Now I'll come down by 1 inch, and after that I'm going to mark my basic neckline of 3 inches. Now I'll place my ruler and connect. The next step is to find your chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Mine gave me 7 inches. I made a point there and I'm going to draw out a straight line. So that line will serve as our chest line or armhole line. Go ahead to mark your shoulder divided by 2 there. Place your ruler and draw out a straight line. Now you're going to divide your chest line into 2 equal parts. Place your tape and mark. Now come out by ½ inch at that point. On your chest line, mark your bust circumference divided by 4. Now I'm going to connect from that point to the ½ inch I came in at the armhole, and I'll take this all the way to the upper part of my shoulder. After connecting this, what I'll do is just to insert my measurement. I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4, and I'll add 2 inches for my sewing allowance. I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, and I'll also add my sewing allowance of 2 inches. So after I'm done marking this, I'll go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4 and add my sewing allowance. So while trying to connect my pattern, I noticed that I did not add my sewing allowance, which I'll go ahead to do. So I went ahead to reconnect my pattern because the initial one I did was not correct. So I'll connect from my bust circumference divided by 4 plus my sewing allowance to my under bust circumference divided by 4 plus my sewing allowance, and I'll now connect it back to my waist circumference divided by 4 plus my sewing allowance, and down to my hip circumference divided by 4 plus my sewing allowance. Now I went ahead to add extra ½ inch after my hip measurement. Now after this, I'll go ahead to cut this out. After cutting this out, you're going to go ahead to open up your pattern because we're going to alter it into a monostrap pattern, and you have to cut your pattern also on fold. Now I'll go ahead and fold my pattern and notch my basic neckline of 3 inches so that if I open it up, I'll be seeing it on the other side when I'm altering this particular pattern. So next, I'm going to go ahead to come down at least by 3 inches or 3.5 from this part of my pattern. And from there, I'm going to connect it to the other end of my pattern this way. So you can use your free hand to do this, or you can just go ahead to use your pattern to do that also. Whatever one that works for you, go ahead to use that. Now I'll go ahead and use my marker to reconnect rather, and after this I'll cut out the lower part of this dress. So now for the lower part of this dress, which also has a gathers, we'll also be talking about how to get that area because of this asymmetric cut we have on this part of the dress, right? So remember, my shoulder to waist is 17 inches and I added extra 3 inches on my waistline on the shorter part. So you'll be using the shorter part actually to cut out the lower part of the dress. So we'll be doing that much later. So from this your neckline of 3 inches, go out by ½ inch, and from here at this side, come down by 4 to 5 inches. It totally depends on how low you want that side to be. Now I'll place my curve drill and I'll connect from there all the way to the shoulder. So this is what I have, and I'm going to go ahead to cut that out. After cutting it out, we are done drafting out the front part. Now you'll be using this pattern to cut out the back, and to make it easy, all you have to do is fold your pattern paper, unfold, and mark your zipper allowance. Now your zipper allowance can be 1.5 to 2 inches. So you can also use 2.5 if you want to have much zipper allowance. Now place your pattern starting from that zipper allowance. Go ahead to pin that to your zipper allowance. That is where you marked that zipper allowance. If it's 1.5 inches or 2 inches, pin that part exactly. Now place your pattern and you're going to trace out the shape of the initial pattern. Now this will save you the stress of going ahead to redraft your pattern again. So I'm just going to go ahead to trace this all the way around, and I'll trace it to the end and also where my pattern meets at the center. Now mark your waistline because you're going to be taking out your zipper bulge from that point, which is ½ inch. Extend it down and also extend it all the way up to the upper part of your pattern. So after you're done marking this, you can connect. Now if you don't want to reduce the sewing allowance at the waistline of your pattern due to the zipper bulge, you can just replace it a little by the side when you're cutting out your pattern this way, and then go ahead to extend it to the under bust and connect. Now also cut out the upper part of the neckline of this dress. Then we are going to go ahead to open this up, and when you're opening it up, you're not going to unpin the zipper. This is like the easiest method of cutting this out without going through any stress. All you have to do is to cut out the zipper bulge at this area, and now go ahead to open this up. Now I'm going to open this pattern up this way, and what I'll do now is to take the front pattern and place on the back pattern. That way your pattern will be facing each other, and that way it will be saving you the stress of knowing where to place each sleeve on the dress. But before going ahead to cut out, you want to make sure that your pattern relaxes on each other, or you can even go ahead to pin. Now trace out the neckline and the lower part of this pattern. After tracing this out, you can now go ahead to cut out your pattern. So after cutting this, we're still going to do some readjustments at the zipper area so that the zipper at both sides will be matching each other. So I'm just going to unpin it to show you what I have. So this is what my pattern will look like on each side. So this is it. By the time you attach your zip and join the back, you're just going to have this monostrap at the back of the dress also, but you also want to adjust this zipper point a bit. So now after this, we'll be going down to getting the measurement for the lower part of this dress. Now for the lower part of this dress, we have our shoulder to waistline, and we added extra 3 inches to it, giving us 20 inches for my dress. Now the full length of my dress, like I said earlier, is 50 inches, right? So if I minus this 20 inches from 50 inches, it will give me 30 inches. Now that 30 inches, I'll cut 3 yards by 30 inches. Now you notice one side of this dress is longer than the other side. So when you're cutting, we'll be making reference to that of the shorter side. That is, when we are cutting, we are going to make use of the shorter side, the part that the asymmetric style is higher, so that when we cut that and we gather it at the lower part of this dress, now the excess we will have on the other side, on this part that the asymmetric line is longer, we are going to trim it off. to align with the other side of our fabric. So join us in our next video where we'll be making this dress.